You are now tuned in to Deserts TV, the network that makes content that will change your life.
Presidents to represent me. I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for dead fucking presidents to represent me. I'm out for presidents to represent me. Presidents to represent me. I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for dead fucking presidents.
Check mic, 1 2 1 2, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it once before, now you get to hear it again. This is Realest State of Mind, ladies and gentlemen. My name is D'Artagnan Connor, and I'm sitting next to no other than
Stephan Muccular.
Love to hear it, man. So let's just get straight into it. How are you feeling, Steve?
It's Saturday. The sun is out. I think it's a good day. It's gonna be a good day. I'm speaking it into existence.
That is really good to hear. I'm glad to hear that that's where you're at right now on this nice Saturday. I'm feeling pretty good. You know, it's been a week of ups and downs, but I'm trying to keep my optimistic spirit because I know where I want to go with things. You feel me?
It's very interesting. And speaking things into existence, you know, I think that could be somewhat of the message for today. Speaking things into existence and the importance of actually doing that.
No, I hear you, because that's one thing, like, it's one thing to speak it into existence, which I think is very powerful and important to do when you want to be optimistic or want to go for something. But I think that execution component that you're referring to is just as important on the other end, because then you got to walk it like you're talking, honestly.
Right. But the first step is what we're talking about.
For sure.
It's giving yourself that mindset that whatever you're trying to accomplish, it can be done.
Very true.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
And sometimes we kind of forget about that. And words are so powerful.
Super powerful.
Last week we were talking about kids and the importance of, you know, talking to them and listening to them, but sometimes it's very important for them to understand, or for us to plant the seed in them, that what they say about themselves or what you say about yourself matters.
Very true, because it's that power within the words.
Right.
And we have, like that kind of goes to the statement of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. The crazy thing about that, though, is while it's true and that's how you should move, but words do hurt. Words, I personally come to the belief that it's very important to watch what you say. You feel me? Because when emotions get into play, folks get upset. That's when, like, you can start really just spewing all types of stuff around, you know. And those words can be hurtful. And in a situation, maybe a simple, quick little tussle could have been a little bit better than some of the things that people decide to say. Just because if me and you get into a heated disagreement and nasty things are said, it could be a little bit harder to come back from if maybe we got into a little scuffle. But then again, it's like we're too old to be getting into a scuffle as well. So it's not like that's the solution. It's really about being able to think before you speak.
Yeah, and controlling those emotions.
Very true, and knowing that this is coming from a space of anger right now, and maybe not how you genuinely feel, but by the time it comes out your mouth, in a disagreement, an argument, or whatever, it's like, in that moment, it could seem like, oh, well, this is how you really felt.
Yeah, and so I encourage everyone out there to take time to really try to understand how you feel. Kind of sit with your emotions, because I think me in particular, sometimes I overlook that and I don't want to think about it, and I don't want to kind of go through those emotions. But I think especially as black men, we don't do this enough, or we're taught to suppress it, when in all actuality we might need to sit with it, or we might need to think about it. Some people, obviously, not everybody needs that. Some people overthink things. I think you might be one of those type of people who
for sure overthink things.
Sit and might think about it way too much, but there's a middle ground, right?
Very true.
There's there's a middle ground in there.
A lot of things that I find myself doing, I'm trying to find that middle ground because I can be an extremist. So it's either I'm all the way on one side, I'm all the way on one side, or the other side about maybe how I may be feeling at certain times. And with that is being able to find that balance, right?
Right.
To where, yeah, you feel me?
Yeah, no, most def. Talking about speaking things into existence. One thing we wanted to highlight today would be the DC California Realty Group. So kind of explain, what that is, how that came about, and how we're speaking that into existence, and then we're gonna make it happen.
Well, yeah, the crazy thing is that pretty much the idea of DC California Realty Group initially revolved around, okay, well, I'm about to pass my test to get my real estate license, and most of the kind of idea of why we're even heading down this path is to be able to invest for ourselves and be able to understand that knowledge to be able to invest with friends and family as well. Start acquiring property and everything. I started paying.
What do we call that again?
Probably spread the sugar shut off.
Spread the sugar shut off.
Everybody refers to it as.
Spread the sugar shut off, man.
But yeah, we started paying. I first started paying attention to duplex, triplex, fourplex, and started really paying attention to that angle and realized that that's still considered like a single family. So you could get some of the same benefits that you would get as a first-time home buyer by getting into getting properties like that.
Hey, you preaching now.
Well, because I realized that's a play.
This is game.
Appreciate
this
that.
is straight game right now. He's really preaching. If this is how you acquire wealth, and this is what people are trying to keep from us.
Well, very true, and I realized how simple of a process it started to sound, and I maybe didn't necessarily always pay attention to multifamily, right? Because I guess you just don't all the time realize that the duplex, the triplex, fourplex, whatever, is in a sense kind of the same. Because you would think like, oh, it's substantially more expensive. You would think it's more to handle, more this, more that. But in reality, once I started looking at the price points, like they were the same pricing as you would get for certain houses out in California. So that told me in that moment, oh, well, I now think, depending on your purpose of the piece of property you're getting, but I think, like, for the most part, like, cop a duplex real quick. Stay on one side, rent the other side.
We call it house hacking.
Stay on one side, run a business on the other side.
House hacking, where your expenses are being paid for. So essentially you're living for free because the other person or the other business that is utilizing the other side or the other home, since it's a duplex, it will be paying the mortgage off every single month for the duplex.
Well, because like in California, rent is very expensive.
Right.
So when you get into that point, you realize if you could find your way into owning something, it will make a lot more sense to be putting that money towards your mortgage.
And the thing about rent in California is that they pay so much rent that the rent sometimes is the amount of
the mortgage. And that be the point. Like most people that own these properties, it's like, oh well, my main goal is to make sure my mortgage is paid for, and then I might be able to get a little something extra off the top at the end, you know what I mean? But the main point is like you're slowly but surely like helping somebody officially own their property.
Yeah, and so, the barrier to entry or the reason why people don't really get into this is the cost, the upfront cost. The home buying process, which seems very hard at first, but once you get a good realtor, someone who understands investment property and things like that, it makes the process pretty simple.
Well, for sure. Like one of the main things like I've been continuing to get taught is that your main goal is to just add value right now, right? So like people may not understand how to go through this process, they may not understand how to do certain things, and they can go to pretty much anybody to get these type of services, but the point is to make sure that you provide that excellent customer service while being yourself at the same time.
And you're speaking on the realtors.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of like, as I started paying more attention into that, that then led me to start like, talking to Steve, and I started paying attention that he was interested in investing in property as well. Like, we're not in a position where we can necessarily do it today, but we know that's one of our main goals, right? So with that, we kind of decided, okay, well, let's start coming together, let's start thinking things through, and DC California Realty Group was going to be a double dip. It was going to be the name I was going to use as a realtor when I go like out and about. Like, that was going to be like, in a sense, like my Homes by D'Artagnan, right? And on the other end of it, it was going to be for our investment purposes. So our goal is to really start off with ourselves to then try to understand it, because that's kind of the main point is you got to get out there, you got to try, you got to understand it truly to the process, to the T. And our goal is to be able to figure out how to invest, do it in a good enough way that we can then help that process get trickled down to like everybody we know, you know what I mean? To where we can come in and invite people in on good opportunities as we move into the future, because we've been trying to crank out this well-oiled machine.
Spread the sugar, share the wealth, man.
Literally. So it's the reason, it's funny because my broker, he didn't tell me specifically you got too much dip on your chip, but I for sure chuckled and heard it that way because he was just letting me know that sounds too much like a brokerage, and that's why at this point it has moved into just the investment side of what we want to do. So that's why Real Estate of Mind became the official podcast of DC California Realty Group, because this is DC California Realty Group. We come at it from the two angles of the entrepreneurship and the realtor side, Steve on the finance side, and we want to be able to come together and be able to build something up that's that could be great for the community. You feel me?
Yeah. So for those who are confused, so DC California Realty, he had to switch up the name.
That I did.
So that something could be more appealing and not sound more brokerage-like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he came up with
Now I go by Homes by
Homes by
D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan. So when he's going in his realtor bag, he's out there helping people, getting them homes and things like that, he goes by Homes by D'Artagnan. But what we haven't reeled out is DC California Realty Group,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be solely for people to team up and invest and get investment property,
Mm-hmm.
Either with us or through us.
Either way.
And we haven't really got started on that process yet. We're still in the learning phase. But coming soon.
Honestly, coming soon. And one of the first few steps, we spent some time trying to like, okay, that's what we want to do. So one of the first things Steve did was he recommended a book. What was that book called? Build It, Buy It, Profit.
Yeah.
Buy it, Rent It, Profit.
All right, Rent It, Profit.
Yeah, so Steve recommended that. So that was one of the first books we slammed out to start trying to educate ourselves a little bit better on this process. And we knew, like, we just want to buy something. Like, an additional component to this is my dad, because we do construction work. So that's why the whole time, like, we knew we had a leg up, because it doesn't matter how ugly the property is to us, because we're, like, it could just need a facelift, you know what I mean? And because we know how to do the work, it's less of a hassle when you know how to go in there and lay the tile, lay new flooring, fix up the stoves, fix up the kitchen, the bathroom. It makes it into a process to where we knew we could be more confident going into different things, because we have him in our corner as well. So we started learning about all you could do on just an acre of land.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
started paying, as we got further along, we started even getting away from the multi-family angle of the duplex triplex, because I realized, like, damn, on an acre, I could have like an apartment complex.
Yeah, so the possibilities are really endless, especially when you have the right people in the corner. So it's very important. We've been preaching all of these different things, but it's very important for you to know a multitude of people and create, and the book talks about this too, create a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I love about D'Artagnan is that, you know, he's first off, he's a great team member. Even though, you know, this is mostly his stuff, right? He's a great team member, and then he has access to anyone and everyone that can do the job. So if you need a job done, no matter what it is, D has the network to get it done. And that's what he's been doing his entire life with everything that he does. Which is why it's, you know, I always preach closed mouths don't get fed.
For sure.
And he literally takes that to heart. I do too. Take that to heart. And to make sure things get done the right and correct way, we reach out and get specialists in those areas.
And
so
that's
we have
very
specialists.
You say that.
In multitude of areas. We now know a lawyer.
We did. That was one of our first steps. It's like, in that book, it painted out maybe like 8 action steps you need to take to prepare yourself and,
to build your team.
Literally, you know, you needed finance people, you need a realtor, you need a property attorney. You know, there was just a few different things. So at that time, me and Steve don't necessarily have these things. So now it's like, okay, how can we find it? And like the lawyer situation specifically, like, it was one of those days where I was just looking like, I was thinking like, we need a lawyer, what's going on? Who can I call, whatever. And then I remembered, oh shoot, let me hit up Mr. C, because I'm almost positive his wife.
This is the second episode in a row. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. We shout out Mr. C.
Either way you put it, he gonna keep getting shouted out.
Shout out to Clifton, man.
I remembered, I was like, oh, like, I'm almost positive his wife is a lawyer. So reached out, talked to him, come to find out, like, shout out to Beetle, she's a judge, you know what I mean? Like, out in the city, and it was just so simple as, like, in that moment, not being afraid to reach out and ask for help, and we ended up finding, like, we didn't even realize what area she specialized in, but she specialized in the exact area we needed.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like she was a divorce attorney. She was actually a property.
And she also had experience owning property herself
as well. So then it just opened us up to being able to have a great conversation, because Steve and myself, we try to go into situations like that, specifically being very inquisitive, like asking a lot of questions, trying to truly like understand things, because we know where we want to go.
And we're sponges.
For sure.
And we just try to soak up all the information.
Especially if it's going to be provided.
The best action steps.
Literally, because you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
And avoid the pitfalls that other people have gone through.
Literally.
That's another thing. I love my man D. D's, you know, he likes to talk. He's quick to listen.
Well, because I grew up around a lot of older people. So,
oh, geez.
When you're around an older crowd a lot, it's like, yo, shut up. Like, listen. Like, it's not on, like, it's not my time to speak right now, but it could always be your time to listen. So with that, like,
my grandfather always says, God gave you 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So you need to listen first before you speak.
Very true.
Listen first before you speak.
Very true.
So yeah, man. How's that going? Being a realtor, you know, you're in the first couple months of actually, you know, being in the thick of it. How's going into the office and those type of things?
Well,
especially during COVID.
For sure. So since the last time, like, we talked, like, I've now gotten officially like keyed in with all our systems, all our back end stuff. I'm now able to go on showings throughout California. I know the process of how to like set it up, get things going, send off forms, the guy that's training me, shout out to my boy Dev, but like he's doing a really great job of like really trying to help me get to that next step, which is important, because I talked about I want to be coachable, I want to be this, but with that, you gotta then be coachable, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so facts. I think that's another huge point. You have to be coachable. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about basketball and training kids. And eventually, I would love to train kids in some form or capacity, so I could spread the sugar show wealth. Ingrain some of the knowledge that I have, some of the experiences I have, in those that come after me. And he was like, I'd rather have 5 coachable boys or 5 coachable girls to train or to have on my team than to have 5 bona fide ball players that are bona fide sports people that don't listen.
Well, because that coachable component goes a long way, because you can have all the talent in the world, but once nobody can say anything to you, it stops you from being able to always max your full potential. Because then you start thinking like, oh, I know it all.
Yep.
Or no one can tell me anything, or like, who are you to say something to me? And like, when we go into things with that mindset, it stops us from being able to be the sponges we just said we were. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, and in that moment, like, take a second and listen. Hear what they're trying to say, and then move forward from there. You feel me?
And I like another thing that you said, because sometimes it's hard to do that, especially as kids, when you have so much information coming at you, right?
Well, for sure.
You got different people with different opinions, or even with business, You have so many different people coming at you. A lot of things you do have to filter out. So it's hard to actually, especially as a young person, it's hard to know what to filter out and what not to filter out.
Very true. That kind of goes to the saying, like, when I talk about, like, I try to take things with, like, a grain of salt.
Exactly.
So it's like, I can hear a billion things, people will tell me everything, but in that component of taking it with a grain of salt, that gives me the option to now decipher what I feel like is needed to add to my tool shed from that conversation. Listen to everything, soak up everything, and understand that perspective. But then it's okay if you don't agree with everything from that perspective, but know to take the good, and if there was bad, even appreciate that. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah. So how's it been in the office? Are people in the office yet, or?
I actually have only stopped by the office maybe once or twice to pick something up. It's out in Benicia. I usually go and work with my boy at his crib. We usually just sit at his table and just like knock out. Serves for very productive mornings to get me going. Shout out to my guy again, honestly. Let me give him a
real talk.
On me, man. But I think I seen an email the other day to where I think the office is now open. I don't think I'ma necessarily just go to the office right now. But I like the option to have it, because that's kind of the point he was. My broker was sharing with me, like, well, you can have that as that component of if you need to take a client there to be more professional or whatever. But due to COVID times, like, we're coming into contact with people a little bit less, so I don't know exactly what's all the way, like, there's a lot of components to this, like, profession that aren't happening right now because of the virus. So like open houses and stuff like that. So regularly working in office spaces, actively being with like clients, like in a longer capacity. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily know that other angle, but at this point I'm just trying to be, like we said, a sponge, learn as much information. I'm appreciating it, and I'm it's really helped me. Like, I pretty much wanted to be in the space I'm now in with this all year, right? Through this whole process, because now, like, money's on the table now, right? So I haven't made a transaction or anything yet, but the opportunity is now here, live and in color, and now it's not on me waiting for something to happen. Now it's waiting on me to continue, now to do my part and actually execute. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of the angle I am now. But it's been smooth.
What I would say is, just coming from my perspective and how it's kind of been going for me, I've been going into the office.
And how has that been? Because you kind of highlighted that you were fresh in the office.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like I am so much more productive in the office than
okay. I can imagine.
When you're at home, there's so many distractions. You get a little comfortable. And for you not being able to experience that office, because we both got hired during quarantine.
For sure.
So both of us not being able to get that office experience, and we're kind of used to the home relaxation type job, you may go sit on your bed for a second.
For sure. I try to sit at my desk and try to, like, by the time I'm up, especially now, like if I'm up, get up.
Yeah. But what I would say is for you, I would at least go into the office, see the vibes. Obviously, if there's too many people in the office, you can't be going to the office like that. But if there isn't, and if there's only one or two of you, I feel you should try it and see how more productive you would be if you're in the office. Because when you're in the office, you're forced.
No, and I could definitely agree to that because I can only imagine.
You're kind of dressed up. There is no TV you can just switch and turn on to your favorite game. Obviously, you do have your phone and your laptop, but you're sitting at a desk. You're with your computer, and you're thinking about the money because you took the time to get up, put some clothes on, and to actually drive to your Benicia for you, right? Which that's not the shortest drive. That's not like it's 5 seconds away. You know what I mean?
It's not like the end of the world type of a drive.
No, obviously, yeah.
It's for sure.
It's for sure something that you have to actively do. So with that being said, give it a try, give it a shot, see how you feel.
Definitely worth it. Honestly, couldn't agree more because I probably would just be a step up or more productive. Like when I wake up, I definitely try to like, most mornings I probably will still put on some slacks, whatever. Like, you know, I've been trying to like get more into my work clothes and try to get more into that bag so that I start to feel it and then do it too. You know what I mean? Trying to do my part. But if I was in the office for sure, because at that point it's like, you're here, you're going to be here until you aren't here anymore. And at that point, I mean, I'm not about to just sit and stare into space when I'm...
So, productivity level, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10 it's going to increase in the office. And then you can actually do somewhat of a hybrid.
For sure. Can definitely do that.
And to where you have that 3-4 productive days. Let's say you go in, this is what I do. 3 days out of the week we go into the office. You know, I force myself up. I leave by 6, get there by 7. From 7 till 3-4 o'clock, I am super productive. To where Thursday and Friday come around, it's a little bit more relaxer days for you per se, because the nature of your job. I advise you to keep the foot on the gas.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm on the clock 24/7.
If you can actually get in there 5 days out of the week, you should do it, because you still work Saturdays and Sundays. Those are still working days for you, and those are the days you can spend at home.
For sure,
in my opinion. But you know, that's just me giving kind of what I do.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, the office just opened, so it's now an option that I can now entertain, and at any point it definitely wouldn't hurt me. But how are things kind of on your end now with your job? Are you still liking the process you're going down?
Absolutely. It's been a blast. You know, actually enjoying what you're doing.
That's a blessing.
And seeing the direct benefit that it has on not only just individuals but families. One of the best feelings in the world about this job is that people have a hierarchy of needs, wants, and desires, right? When it comes to money, you don't have to go too far down the list of what people really think about a lot or value the most in this world to get to money. Most people, it might be number 1. Some people it might be number 2, 3 after family, religion, or whatever. But somewhere in that top 5, money's probably in there, because we need money to survive. And so at that point, the person managing your money kind of becomes family.
Well, because it's for sure a trusted source you're bringing in.
Yeah.
Because once you're like managing somebody's money, you're looking after their livelihood,
And you're in their inner circle.
without a doubt.
You're really in their inner circle. So it's funny, when I first started, my manager was telling me about how, you know, he's actually been to weddings or mitzvahs, sporting events, you name it, because people want them or want him, their trusted source in those precious moments that they have with their families. They're invited to Christmas, vacations, like all of these things, because that's how much their money manager means to them. And it's interesting to hear, you know, to listen and to be a part of some of those conversations with people and their families and the importance of money. So I like it. It's nice.
That is good. I'm really happy to hear that, because at the end of the day, we can think that this is something that we want to do, but until we do it, that's when we truly get to understand if this is, how passionate was I really about this. So I'm happy to hear that you're continuing to embark upon this path, Steve. Shout out to you, King. Okay, so at this point, I think we should now transition into our Spread the Sugar, Share the Wealth segment, where, ladies and gentlemen, we like to highlight some Black-owned businesses. So today, the first one I want to highlight is Real Manhood 101. Shout out to my godbrother, Dwight Taylor Sr. He's the founder of Real Manhood 101, and this is pretty much, he calls, I think he calls June like Manhood Awareness Month, right? So he, for the past like maybe 3+ years, he's been doing a lot of work with this organization specifically out in like the Sacramento region, working with youth from like probably as young as maybe like 5 to 10 all the way up to high school kids, if not going on to college. Like really working with these young men and constantly trying to talk to them, because he's like a motivational speaker and like a coach in that realm, but also like give them exposure to different things and let them know what's out there and can be for them. So like there's been a few times where you see me at Sac State giving away cupcakes to kids, and that was me at the Real Manhood 101. The first annual, the second annual, the third one. My boy Hunt speaking to the kids with him. So like, it's just been a great opportunity for us to like have another outlet to give back. So shout out to Real Manhood 101, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, shout out to them. For mine this week, I want to double back on something that KP talked about, and he's a part of, Caleb. And we actually did shout them out, but LDG, Learn, Develop, and Grow. Their app is Learn, Develop, Grow on Instagram. Shout out to them and everything that KP is doing with them. Shout out to you know, what he wants to do with that. I think it was very powerful that he was talking about how, you know, he wants to take a step back. He threw a great event, and he wants to take a step back and actually learn, you know, what he needs to learn to take this thing to the next level and to get even more people out there. So he's kind of like on somewhat of a little hiatus, you know, to take a step back to move a little bit forward. So shout out to them.
That is super dope. Shout out to them. Well, Steve, as we start transitioning up out of here, is there anything else you want to share with the people in this moment in time, King?
Just wanted to shout out to all the supporters, man. Appreciate you guys. People who are tuned in week in and week out. From, you know, even if you have 6 people, 5 people, 3 people, 1,000 people, we appreciate you.
We appreciate every single person, because we trying to find it. We want to go somewhere with this and everything else we're trying to do. And if you decide to tap in with Real Estate of Mind and lend us an ear, yo, it means the world to us.
Yeah, man. And, if you have any ideas or feedback you want to send our way, we're always open here.
Please, any ideas, Yo, share the sugar, spread the wealth, because this is a community project, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, I'm D'Artagnan Connor.
Stephan Muccular.
This is Real Estate of Mind, ladies and gentlemen.